Tonight, the architectural world would witness history. The grand ballroom of the Metropolitan Design Awards glittered with Manhattan's elite. Crystal chandeliers cast golden light over designers in couture gowns and architects in sharp tuxedos, all gathered to honor excellence. And standing at the podium, accepting the Visionary Designer of the Year award, was Harper Cole, wearing Olivia Bennett's stolen dreams like a crown. "I'm honored to receive this recognition," Harper's voice echoed through the sound system, smooth as silk and twice as false. "My revolutionary eco-design philosophy has always been about creating spaces where humanity and nature coexist." Those were my words, Olivia thought bitterly from her tiny apartment 3,000 miles away in Seattle, watching the live stream on her cracked laptop screen. My philosophy, my designs, my life. Her phone buzzed. "Unknown number, Ms. Bennett, Grayson Enterprises wishes to offer you the position of lead designer for our new sustainable development project. Annual salary, $2 million. Please respond within 24 hours." Olivia stared at the message, her heart pounding. Grayson Enterprises, his company. "Mommy, I need juice," Mason called from the living room. "Me too," Ethan chimed in. "Mommy, I don't need juice, but can I have cookies?" Chloe asked politely. Olivia closed the laptop, pushing away 7 years of buried pain. "Okay, babies, stay here and watch your show. Mommy will be right back." She headed to the kitchen, but stopped when she heard Ryan's voice from the hallway. "Guys, I think Mommy's crying again." "Don't tell her we know," Sophie whispered. Little Grace, barely 4 years old, clutched her stuffed rabbit. "Is it because of the bad lady on TV?" Isla, the logical one, adjusted her glasses. "No, it's because of the man Mommy won't talk about." Olivia's throat tightened. Her children were too perceptive, too smart for their own good. "What Harper took from me 7 years ago," Olivia thought, fingers hovering over the phone. "This time, I'll take back tenfold." She typed one word: accepted. 3 weeks later, JFK International Airport. "Mommy, are we really going to New York?" Mason bounced on his toes, his robotics kit tucked under one arm. "Yes, sweetheart." Olivia adjusted her worn carry-on, herding 7 children through the terminal like a mother duck with genius ducklings. "Is Daddy going to pick us up?" Grace asked, her small voice hopeful. Olivia's chest constricted. "No, baby. We've talked about this." "But you said we'd meet important people," Ethan interrupted, his math competition trophy peeking from his backpack. "We will, but welcome back to New York, Ms. Bennett." A sleek black car waited at the curb. A driver in uniform opened the door. "Mr. Grayson has arranged accommodations for you and your family." Olivia froze. "He knows about the children?" Before she could respond, a deep voice cut through the airport noise. "Grandfather, grandfather, you came." Everyone turned. An elderly man in an expensive suit stood near a limousine, arms outstretched, face lit with joy. Directed at Mason, who had wandered away and was now standing directly in front of him. "Such a handsome boy," Charles Grayson laughed, not recognizing Olivia from across the crowd. "Whose child are you?" Mason tilted his head, studying the old man with unsettling intensity. "My name is Mason Bennett, and you look exactly like the picture Mommy hides in her drawer." Charles's smile faltered. "Mason!" Olivia rushed over, heart hammering. "I'm so sorry, sir. He just—" She froze. Charles Grayson stared at her, recognition dawning slowly, horribly. "You," he whispered. "Mommy, who is he?" Ethan appeared at her side, followed by all 6 of his siblings like a protective wall. Charles's gaze swept over them. 7 pairs of eyes, 7 familiar faces, 7 impossible truths. "My God," he breathed. "Alexander's." "They're mine," Olivia said quickly, desperately. "Just mine, please." But across the terminal, another figure had stopped mid-stride. Alexander Grayson, billionaire CEO, stood frozen near the VIP lounge exit, his phone forgotten in his hand. He was staring directly at Mason, at Ethan, at the birthmark on Ryan's neck, identical to his own. Their eyes met across the crowded airport. 7 years of silence shattered in an instant. If this story already stirs something within you, take a moment to subscribe. Join our circle of faith, hope, and love, and drop a comment to tell us where you're watching from. 7 years later, the rain hadn't stopped in Seattle for 3 days straight. Olivia Bennett stood in her cramped kitchen at 6:47 a.m., making her third pot of coffee while simultaneously reviewing blueprints for a sustainable housing project, checking 7 different lunch boxes, and praying the ceiling leak in the hallway wouldn't get worse before she could afford to fix it. "Mommy, Mason took apart the microwave again," Chloe called from the living room. "I'm improving it," Mason's voice echoed back defensively. "Mommy, Ethan calculated that we're 4.7 minutes behind schedule," Sophie added helpfully. Olivia closed her eyes and counted to 5. She'd given up counting to 10 years ago. There simply wasn't time. "Mason, put the microwave back together. Ethan will survive being late. Everyone else, shoes on, backpacks ready. Let's move." This was her life now, a tiny rental house in the suburbs, 7 extraordinary children, and enough chaos to power a small city. But God, she wouldn't trade it for anything. By 7:15 a.m., organized chaos had descended into beautiful disaster. "Isla, your robotics project is amazing, but you can't bring the mechanical arm to school. It's bigger than you are." 6-year-old Isla pushed her glasses up her nose, scowling. But Mrs. Chen said to bring something we're proud of. "Bring the blueprint, not the actual robot." "Fine," Isla huffed but carefully rolled up her design plans. Ryan, hunched over his laptop at the kitchen table, didn't even look up. "Mom, I'm almost done debugging this code. Just 5 more minutes." "You said that 20 minutes ago. Bus leaves in 10. But if I don't finish, the entire framework will collapse." And Ryan Alexander Bennett. Olivia used her mom voice, the one that meant business. "Save your work, now." He sighed dramatically but complied, his fingers flying across the keyboard with the speed and precision of someone 3 times his age. Meanwhile, Grace, the youngest at 4, sat on the floor with her stuffed rabbit, humming softly while arranging everyone's shoes by size and color. "Mommy, what?" she said in her small, serious voice. "Ethan is sad today. The numbers made him cry last night." Olivia's heart squeezed. Grace's empathy was both gift and burden. She felt everyone's emotions like they were her own. "I'm okay, Gracie," Ethan called from upstairs, though his voice sounded tight. Olivia made a mental note to check on him tonight. Her 7-year-old mathematician carried too much weight for someone so small. Sophie appeared in the doorway, paint smudged on her cheek. "Mommy, look, I finished the portrait." She held up a canvas, a stunning watercolor of their little family, all 8 of them holding hands beneath a rainbow. Olivia's throat tightened. "It's beautiful, baby." "I'm entering it in the school art show. First prize is $200. Sophie's eyes gleamed with determination. "That could help fix the roof." "Sophie, you don't have to." "We all want to help, Mom," Mason said, emerging from the living room with a reassembled microwave. "That's what families do." That evening, after Olivia had survived another day of freelance client calls, grocery shopping on a shoestring budget, and mediating 17 sibling disputes, she found all 7 children huddled in Mason and Ethan's bedroom. Suspiciously quiet, never a good sign. She knocked. "Everything okay in there?" Scrambling, whispered hisses. Then Mason opened the door, smiling too innocently. "Hi, Mom, we're just doing homework." "All 7 of you, together?" "Teamwork makes the dream work," Chloe chirped. Olivia narrowed her eyes but let it slide. She was too exhausted to investigate. What she didn't know was that behind that door, her children were putting the finishing touches on their secret project for the National Young Innovators Cup, a competition for kids under 18 to showcase breakthrough inventions. "If we win," Ethan whispered, pulling up the prize information on Ryan's laptop, "we get $50,000. That's enough to fix the roof, pay Mom's medical bills from when Grace was sick, and maybe get her a real office instead of the kitchen table," Isla added. Mason adjusted the schematics for their entry, a multifunctional home sustainability system that recycled rainwater, generated solar power, and composted organic waste, all in one compact unit. "It's genius," Ryan breathed, reviewing the code that would make the system run. "Mom's genius," Sophie corrected softly. "We just made her ideas real." Because their mother, exhausted and overworked as she was, still sketched her dreams late at night when she thought they were sleeping. Still designed buildings that would never be built, systems that would never be funded. And her children, brilliant, determined, fiercely loyal, had decided it was time the world saw what Olivia Bennett could really do, even if they had to enter the competition themselves to prove it. 3 weeks later, competition day arrived. Olivia had no idea where her children were going when they told her about a special school field trip. She'd signed the permission slip without reading it carefully, distracted by a client deadline and the persistent leak that had now spread to the bathroom. Be safe, listen to your teachers, don't let Mason take anything apart, she'd called as they rushed out the door. What she didn't know was that there were no teachers, just 7 children, a borrowed van courtesy of their neighbor, Mr. Chen, and a dream loaded in the back. The Seattle Convention Center buzzed with energy. Hundreds of young inventors from across the country had gathered, their projects ranging from simple science fair volcanoes to complex AI algorithms. And then there was Team Bennett. "We look ridiculous," Isla muttered, adjusting her Team Bennett t-shirt that Mason had designed and printed. "We look coordinated," Mason corrected. "Professional." "We look like a boy band," Ethan deadpanned. "Focus," Ryan said, fingers already flying across his tablet, making last-minute code adjustments. "We present in 20 minutes. Chloe warmed up her voice, ready to explain the musical algorithm component. Sophie clutched her design portfolio. Grace held everyone's water bottles and offered encouragement in her small, steady voice. They were terrifying and adorable in equal measure. And when they took the stage, the judges didn't know what hit them. "Our project is called Home Cycle," Mason announced confidently into the microphone, his 7-year-old voice projecting across the auditorium. The screen behind them lit up with Olivia's original sketches, refined, enhanced, brought to life. "It's a sustainable home system that addresses 3 critical issues," Ethan continued, pulling up graphs and statistics: water waste, energy consumption, and organic waste management. Isla demonstrated the working prototype, a scale model that actually functioned, filtering water, generating power from a miniature solar array, and processing compost into nutrient-rich soil. Ryan explained the software that made it all work together, his code elegant and efficient. Chloe played a short piano piece she'd composed that represented the system's harmony, technology and nature working in concert. Sophie showed the artistic renderings of how Home Cycle could integrate into existing homes without disrupting aesthetics. And Grace, in her small voice, simply said, "Our mommy taught us that the best inventions help people. This one helps families like ours." The auditorium erupted in applause. The judges looked stunned. And in the back of the room, a man in an expensive suit who'd come to scout talent for Grayson Enterprises pulled out his phone and started recording. They won. Not just their category, they won the entire competition. Team Bennett, 7 kids from a tiny rental house in Seattle, had beaten out high school seniors, junior college students, and well-funded private school teams. The prize? $50,000 in media coverage that would make them overnight sensations. But in the chaos of celebration, no one noticed Ryan swaying on his feet. "Ryan?" Mason grabbed his brother's arm. "You okay?" "Just tired." Ryan's face was pale, covered in sweat. "When did you last sleep?" Isla demanded. "Tuesday?" "Ryan, it's Friday." "I had to finish the code. Had to make sure everything worked." His eyes rolled back, and he collapsed. Olivia's phone rang at 3:47 p.m. "Miss Bennett?" An unfamiliar voice. Professional, urgent. "This is Seattle Grace Medical Center. Your son Ryan was brought in by ambulance. He's stable, but..." The world tilted. Olivia didn't remember grabbing her keys, didn't remember the drive, didn't remember anything except her children's faces and the word hospital echoing in her head like a nightmare. She burst through the ER doors, wild-eyed and terrified. "My son, Ryan Bennett, where is he?" "Ma'am, please calm down." "Where is my son?" A nurse guided her to a curtained bay where 6 children sat in chairs, faces streaked with tears, and one small boy lay on a gurney with an IV in his arm. "Ryan!" Olivia rushed to his side, grabbing his hand. His eyes fluttered open. "Mom, we won." "I don't care about winning, baby. I care about you." But the roof, we wanted to fix the roof. Olivia's confusion lasted exactly 3 seconds before Mason, crying, explained everything. The competition, the project, the all-nighters Ryan had pulled to perfect the code. The secret they'd kept because they wanted to surprise her. You crazy, brilliant, wonderful idiots, Olivia sobbed, pulling all 6 conscious children into a hug while still holding Ryan's hand. Don't you ever scare me like that again. We just wanted to help, Sophie whispered. I know, baby, I know. Miss Bennett, I'm Dr. Sarah Chen. Ryan's going to be fine. Severe exhaustion and dehydration. We'll keep him overnight for observation, but he should make a full recovery. Olivia sagged with relief. However, Dr. Chen continued gently. I do need to ask, has Ryan been under unusual stress? 7-year-olds shouldn't be coding until they collapse. He's gifted, Olivia said carefully. They all are. Sometimes they push themselves too hard. Dr. Chen glanced at the 6 children, all clearly exceptional, all clearly exhausted. I can see that. Make sure they rest. Genius or not, they're still kids. I will. Thank you, doctor. As Dr. Chen left, Olivia turned back to her children, overwhelmed with love and exasperation. Team Bennett, she said firmly, from now on, if you are going to change the world, you're doing it on a reasonable sleep schedule. Understood? Yes, Mom, they chorused. Good. Now someone explain to me how you built a functioning, sustainable home system in my garage without me noticing. What she didn't know was that the man in the expensive suit who'd recorded her children's presentation was Noah Pierce, Alexander Grayson's personal assistant. What she didn't know was that footage of Team Bennett was already trending online, catching the attention of tech companies, news outlets, and one billionaire CEO who'd been searching for innovative, sustainable designs. And what she definitely didn't know was that at that exact moment, Alexander Grayson was walking through the hospital's main entrance for a board meeting. When he heard a commotion in the ER, curious, he detoured and found himself standing in the doorway of a curtained bay where a woman who looked hauntingly familiar comforted 6 children while holding the hand of a 7th. The boy on the gurney, pale, exhausted, but fighting to stay awake, turned his head. His eyes met Alexander's, and in a voice barely above a whisper, Ryan said, Sir, you look like me. The world stopped. Alexander stared at the child, at the birthmark on his neck, identical to his own, at the sharp intelligence and eyes that mirrored his perfectly, at 6 other children who all turned to look at him with varying expressions of shock and recognition, and at the woman whose face he'd tried to forget for 7 years. Olivia, he breathed. She looked up, saw him, and went white as a sheet. No, she whispered. No, no, oh, no, no. But it was too late. The truth stood between them in a hospital ER, undeniable and impossible to ignore. 7 children, 7 years, 7 reasons their lives were about to change forever. The hospital corridor felt like it was closing in. Olivia stood frozen, one hand still clutching Ryan's, the other instinctively pulling her children closer. 7 years of running, hiding, rebuilding, all shattered in the space of 3 whispered words. Sir, you look like me. Alexander Grayson hadn't moved from the doorway. He stood perfectly still, his expensive suit somehow out of place in the fluorescent-lit ER, his expression cycling through shock, confusion, and something that looked dangerously close to recognition. Olivia Bennett, he said, and his voice was different than she remembered. Harder, colder. It's been a long time. We need to go. Olivia's voice came out strangled. She turned to Duchen. Can Ryan be discharged? We'll follow up with our regular pediatrician. Mom, I still have an IV, Ryan protested weakly. Ms. Bennett, he really should stay overnight, Dr. Chen said gently. We're leaving. Olivia, Alexander's voice cut through her panic. We need to talk. We have nothing to talk about. I think 7 reasons suggest otherwise. Mason stood abruptly, positioning himself between Alexander and his mother. You need to leave. You're upsetting her. Alexander's gaze dropped to the 7-year-old boy, taking in the defiant stance, the protective fury, the unmistakable resemblance. What's your name? Alexander asked quietly. Mason Bennett. And you're making my mom scared. So you need to go. Something flickered across Alexander's face. Pride? Pain? Olivia couldn't tell. I'm not here to hurt anyone, Alexander said. I just want to understand. There's nothing to understand. Olivia's voice was stronger now, desperation giving her courage. These are my children. Mine. You have no claim to them. Don't I? The question hung in the air like a grenade. Before Olivia could respond, her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I can help you disappear again, but you need to leave Seattle tonight. A friend. Her blood ran cold. Alexander's phone buzzed simultaneously. He glanced at it, his expression darkening, then looked back at Olivia. Don't run, he said quietly. Not this time. But Olivia was already gathering her children, already planning her escape, because she'd run once before to protect them. And she'd do it again in a heartbeat. Find out everything about her, Alexander ordered, his voice tight. Where she's been, what she's been doing, how she ended up with 7 children who, he couldn't finish the sentence. Noah was already typing on his tablet. Sir, I should tell you, those children, they won the National Young Innovators Cup today. Their project went viral. Over 2 million views in the last 4 hours. Alexander's head snapped up. Show me. Noah pulled up the video. Alexander watched in silence as 7 children, his children, every instinct screamed it, presented a brilliant sustainable home system. Watched Mason's confident leadership, Ethan's mathematical precision, Isla's engineering genius. And behind their work, in every design element, he saw echoes of something hauntingly familiar. Pause there, he said sharply. Noah froze the frame on a blueprint displayed behind the children. Alexander stared. That's impossible, he breathed. Sir? That design. Alexander moved closer to the screen. The water recycling system, the solar integration, the modular framework. His voice rose. That's from the Grayson Tower Sustainability Project, the one that was stolen 7 years ago. Noah's fingers flew across his tablet. The project attributed to Harper Cole? Yes, but these designs, Alexander gestured at the screen, they're more refined, more advanced. This is the original vision. You think Olivia Bennett designed them? I know she did. Alexander's jaw tightened. Pull every file we have on that project, every email, every meeting note, every personnel record. I want to know exactly what happened 7 years ago. Her perfectly manicured nails dug into her desk. No, she whispered. No, no, no. Olivia Bennett, after 7 years of silence, she'd resurfaced. With children, with designs that could expose everything Harper had stolen. Harper's phone rang. Charles Grayson's name flashed on the screen. Have you seen it? Charles's voice was clipped. I'm handling it. Handle it faster. If Alexander connects Olivia to the stolen designs, if he realizes those children are his, he won't. I'll make sure of it. Harper hung up and immediately opened her computer. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, accessing archived files from 7 years ago. Personnel records? Deleted. Email correspondence? Deleted. Meeting notes mentioning Olivia Bennett? Deleted. Every digital trace of Olivia's work on the Grayson Tower project? Erased. But as Harper worked, she missed one crucial detail. Noah Pierce had already copied everything. The other 6 were curled up in chairs and on floor cushions the nurses had provided, refusing to leave their brother. Mason's arm was draped protectively across Ethan. Chloe held Grace. Isla and Sophie leaned against each other. Her children, her team, her entire world. Ms. Bennett? Olivia looked up to find Alexander standing in the doorway. Her heart hammered. What are you doing here? I own 40% of this hospital, he said quietly. I can go wherever I want. That's not an answer. Neither is running away from me in the parking lot earlier. Olivia flushed. She'd tried to leave, but Ryan needed observation, and Dr. Chen had insisted. Alexander stepped into the room, his gaze sweeping over the sleeping children. Something in his expression softened, just slightly. They're extraordinary, he said. They're mine. Are they? He looked at her directly. Because Ryan has my birthmark. Mason has my eyes. And those designs they presented today, Olivia, I've seen them before. Her breath caught. I don't know what you're talking about. 7 years ago, someone stole proprietary designs from Grayson Enterprises, designs for a sustainable building system that revolutionized urban architecture. His voice was measured, but intensity burned beneath. Harper Cole took credit, built her career on them. But I just watched your children present the original vision, the one that was supposedly lost. Olivia said nothing. It was you, Alexander continued. You designed them. And Harper stole your work. That's quite a theory. It's the truth. Even if it were, Olivia said, her voice shaking, what does it matter now? It's been 7 years. Harper won. I lost. End of story. No. Alexander moved closer. It's not the end. Because I need to know what really happened that night. Which night? But Olivia knew exactly which night he meant. The storm, the elevator, the morning I woke up alone. His voice dropped. The night that apparently resulted in 7 children I knew nothing about. Tears burned Olivia's eyes. You want the truth? Fine. I was an intern. You were my boss. Someone drugged the champagne meant for Harper, your fiancé, and I drank it instead. We made a mistake, and when I tried to explain the next day, Harper had already convinced everyone I was trying to trap you, that I'd stolen designs and seduced you for leverage. Alexander's face went pale. That's not... I was fired that afternoon, Olivia continued, her voice breaking. Escorted out by security, told if I ever came back, you'd have me arrested. 2 weeks later, I found out I was pregnant. So I ran. What else was I supposed to do? Silence filled the room. When Alexander finally spoke, his voice was raw. I didn't know. You didn't want to know. Olivia, please go, she whispered. Please just leave us alone. Alexander stared at her, at this woman who'd haunted him for 7 years, who'd somehow survived alone, who'd raised 7 genius children with gentleness and fire. The same gentleness and fire he remembered from that one night. I'm going to find out the truth, he said quietly. All of it. Who drugged that champagne? Who stole your designs? Why you were really fired? He paused at the doorway. And when I do, Olivia, I'm going to make sure everyone who hurt you pays for it. Then he was gone. Olivia sat in the darkness, holding Ryan's hand, surrounded by her sleeping children. And for the first time in 7 years, she let herself hope that maybe, just maybe, someone was finally going to fight for her. Even if that someone was the man she'd spent 7 years trying to forget. Ryan had recovered fully. The $50,000 prize money sat in her bank account. More money than she'd seen in years. The roof was fixed. Bills were paid. And her children were suddenly minor celebrities. Fielding interview requests Olivia politely declined. She'd also started job hunting in Portland. Anywhere but Seattle. Anywhere Alexander Grayson couldn't find them. Then the email arrived. Subject, design opportunity. Confidential. Ms. Bennett, we represent a private client seeking an innovative architect for a major sustainable development project. Your children's presentation at the National Young Innovators Cup demonstrated exceptional design vision we believe originated with you. Project scope, 200,000 square feet eco-commercial complex. Timeline, 18 months. Compensation, $2 a million, plus royalties. If interested, please respond using the alias of your choice to protect your privacy during preliminary negotiations. All meetings will be conducted through intermediaries until contracts are signed. Olivia read it 3 times. $2 million, enough to give her children stability, college funds, a real home, enough to finally stop running. Her hands trembled as she typed the response. I accept. Please address all correspondence to O. Bennett Design Studio. 3 days later, Olivia arrived at the Grayson Enterprises building. She realized her mistake the moment she walked through the glass doors. Ms. Bennett? A professional woman in a sharp suit approached. I'm Claire, Mr. Grayson's executive assistant. He's expecting you in the conference room. Olivia's stomach dropped. Mr. Grayson? Yes, he's personally overseeing this project. Claire smiled. Right this way. No. But it was too late to run. Claire opened the conference room door, and there he was. Alexander Grayson stood at the window, hands in his pockets, silhouetted against the Seattle skyline. When he turned, his expression was perfectly neutral, professional, as if they were strangers. "Ms. Bennett," he gestured to a chair. "Thank you for coming." Olivia forced herself to breathe, to sit, to pretend her heart wasn't hammering against her ribs. "Mr. Grayson," her voice was steady, a miracle. "I wasn't aware you were the client. Does it matter? That depends on whether this is a legitimate job offer or something else." "It's legitimate." Alexander sat across from her, sliding a folder across the table. "The project is real. The compensation is real. Your talent is what I need." "Why me, Baba?" "Because 7 years ago you designed something brilliant, and someone stole it from you." His gaze held hers. "I want to give you the chance to finish what you started." Olivia's throat tightened. "Under your supervision. Under a fair contract, with full creative control, and credit that can never be taken away." She wanted to say no, wanted to walk out, wanted to protect herself and her children from this man who could destroy everything with one phone call to a lawyer. But $2 million, stability, security. "I'll need the contract reviewed by my attorney," Olivia said carefully. "Of course." Alexander's expression didn't change. "Take all the time you need." What Olivia didn't see was Harper Cole watching from the hallway, phone recording every second. Harper's perfectly manicured nails tapped against her screen as she texted Charles Grayson. "She's here. Meeting with Alex right now. I have footage." The response came immediately. "Good. We may need it." The meeting lasted 2 hours. Professional, polite, painfully formal. They discussed sustainable materials, energy systems, community impact. Olivia presented preliminary concepts. Alexander asked intelligent questions, offered valuable insights, never once mentioned the hospital or the children or the night that had changed everything. It was excruciating. When they finally finished, Olivia gathered her portfolio with shaking hands. "Ms. Bennett," Alexander said as she reached the door, "for what it's worth, I meant what I said at the hospital. I'm going to find out what really happened." "Please don't." "Why not?" "Because some truths only make things worse." She left before he could respond. That afternoon, Olivia worked from a coffee shop near her house, reviewing the contract Alexander had provided. It was generous, suspiciously generous, full creative control, unlimited budget, her name, her real name, on every document, every press release, every architectural credit, everything she'd been denied 7 years ago. She was so absorbed in the details that she didn't notice the coffee shop door opening, didn't notice 7 small figures entering, didn't notice until Mason's voice rang out, "Surprise inspection!" Olivia's head snapped up. All 7 of her children stood in the doorway, grinning. Behind them, their elderly neighbor, Mr. Chen, waved apologetically. "They insisted," he called, "said it was an emergency." "What emergency?" Olivia demanded, though she was already smiling. "We missed you," Grace said simply, climbing into Olivia's lap. "We brought snacks." Ethan held up a grocery bag. "And I fixed your laptop's processing speed," Ryan added proudly. "When did you?" Olivia noticed her laptop had new stickers on it. "Ryan Alexander Bennett, did you hack my computer again?" "Hack is such a strong word. I prefer optimized." The coffee shop erupted in laughter. Other patrons pulled out phones. Within minutes, video of the Young Innovators Cup winners surprising their mom at work was trending online. Olivia should have been mortified. Instead, she pulled all 7 children close, breathing in their chaos and love and brilliance. "You're all grounded," she murmured. "Worth it," Mason whispered back. Across town, Alexander sat in his office, tablet in hand, watching the viral video for the 3rd time. The coffee shop footage showed Olivia surrounded by her children, laughing, hugging them, pretending to scold them while her eyes shone with pure love. Mason explained something technical, gesturing wildly. Ethan corrected his math with gentle patience. Chloe played a melody on her phone that made Sophie dance. Isla showed Olivia a blueprint she'd drawn. Ryan demonstrated the laptop optimization. And Grace simply held her mother's hand, smiling. 7 children, 7 different personalities, 7 unique gifts, all unmistakably brilliant, all unmistakably his. Alexander paused the video on Olivia's face. The way she looked at her children with such fierce, protective love. The same expression he'd glimpsed 7 years ago when she talked about her dreams of designing buildings that help people. Noah appeared in the doorway. "Sir, I have the results you requested." "And?" "DNA analysis from the hospital samples, with the family's consent, of course." Noah hesitated. "All 7 children share your genetic markers. Probability of paternity, 99.9%. Alexander had known, had been certain since the moment Ryan said, "Sir, you look like me." But hearing the confirmation still felt like a punch to the chest. "There's more," Noah continued. "I found archived security footage from 7 years ago, the night of the storm." He pulled up the video. "Watch." Alexander watched as Harper Cole, his then-fiancée, handed a champagne glass to a catering staff member with explicit instructions. Watched as that same glass ended up in Olivia's hands. Watched Harper smile as Olivia drank. "She drugged her," Alexander said, his voice dangerously quiet. "Yes, sir." And the next morning, Harper filed a complaint claiming Olivia had stolen proprietary designs and attempted to seduce you for blackmail leverage. The complaint that got Olivia fired. The same one signed by Harper and approved by— Noah hesitated. "By who?" "Your father, sir." Alexander's hands clenched into fists. 7 years. 7 years Olivia had raised their children alone, believing he'd betrayed her. 7 years she'd survived on her own because his father and his ex-fiancée had conspired to destroy her. "Find me everything," Alexander said coldly. "Every email, every document, every lie they told. I want enough evidence to bury them both." "Yes, sir." Noah turned to leave, then paused. "Sir, those children, they're extraordinary. And Ms. Bennett raised them to be kind, brilliant, and loyal despite everything she went through." "I know. Are you going to tell them that you're their father?" Alexander looked at the frozen image on his screen. Olivia surrounded by their children, smiling despite 7 years of struggle. "They're extraordinary. And Ms. Bennett raised them to be kind, brilliant, and loyal despite everything she went through." "I know. Are you going to tell them that you're their father?" Alexander looked at the frozen image on his screen. Olivia surrounded by their children, smiling despite 7 years of struggle. "Not yet," he said quietly. "First, I'm going to give her back everything that was stolen. Her designs, her reputation, her dignity. He owed her that much. And then, if she'd let him, he'd spend the rest of his life making up for the 7 years he'd missed." The video went viral at 3:42 a.m. Olivia woke to her phone exploding with notifications. Texts, emails, missed calls from numbers she didn't recognize. Confused and half asleep, she opened Twitter. And her world collapsed. Hashtag Gold Digger Mom was trending. The video showed heavily edited footage. Olivia entering Grayson Enterprises. A timestamp from 7 years ago. Her leaving Alexander's office, clothes disheveled, except that footage was from the morning after the storm, when she'd been escorted out by security, terrified and confused. But the editing made it look like a calculated seduction. A voiceover, clearly AI generated to sound like a news anchor. Olivia Bennett, fired architect, returns to seduce former boss Alexander Grayson after viral publicity from her children's competition win. Sources say she's already secured a $2 million contract. How far will some women go for money? The comments were vicious. Using her kids for sympathy, then going after the billionaire? Disgusting. Those poor children being exploited by their gold digger mom. She planned this whole thing. Competition, viral video, everything. Olivia's hands shook so hard she dropped the phone. This couldn't be happening, not again. By 7 a.m., Olivia had lost 3 freelance clients. Emails arrived in rapid succession. "We've decided to go in a different direction. Given recent publicity, we feel it's best to part ways. Our company cannot be associated with this kind of controversy." 7 years of rebuilding her reputation, destroyed in one night. She sat at her kitchen table, staring at her laptop screen, trying not to cry before her children woke up. Too late. "Mommy?" Grace appeared in the doorway, clutching her rabbit. "Why are you sad?" "I'm not sad, baby. Just tired." "You're lying." Grace climbed into her lap. "I can feel it." Olivia held her youngest daughter close, breathing in the scent of her strawberry shampoo, trying to keep the panic at bay. How was she supposed to explain this to her children? That someone had twisted the truth, made her look like a monster, destroyed everything they'd worked for. Her phone rang. Alexander's name flashed on the screen. She almost didn't answer. Olivia! His voice was tight with barely controlled fury. I just saw the video. So did everyone else. It's fake, doctored. I'm having my legal team. It doesn't matter. Olivia's voice was hollow. Fake or not, people believe it. I've already lost clients. It's only a matter of time before... Before what? Before someone calls child services. Claims I'm an unfit mother exploiting my children for money. Silence. Then, that won't happen. I won't let it. You can't stop it, Alexander. You couldn't stop it 7 years ago, and you can't stop it now. 7 years ago, I didn't know the truth. Now I do. His voice hardened. This was Harper. I know it was, and I'm going to prove it. Don't, Olivia's voice cracked. Please, just don't make this worse. I'll take the children and leave Seattle. We'll disappear again. No, the word came out fierce. You're not running, not this time. Let me fix this. You can't fix this? Olivia's composure finally shattered. Don't you understand? The world has already decided who I am. A liar, a gold digger, a woman who uses her children for publicity and seduces men for money. That's the story they want, and nothing you say will change it. Then we'll change the narrative. How? By telling the truth. All of it. Olivia closed her eyes. The truth is complicated. The truth is that you were drugged, assaulted, framed, and fired. That you raised 7 extraordinary children alone while the people who destroyed you prospered. That you survived despite everything they did to you. Alexander's voice dropped. That's the truth. And I'm going to make sure everyone knows it. Before Olivia could respond, he hung up. In the Grayson Enterprises boardroom, Alexander faced his father. You knew. Alexander's voice was dangerously quiet. You knew about Olivia, about what Harper did, and you let it happen. Charles Grayson stood at the window, hands clasped behind his back. It was for your own good. My own good? Alexander's laugh was bitter. You destroyed an innocent woman's career. You helped cover up a crime. He stopped, realization dawning. You knew about the children, didn't you? Charles said nothing. Answer me. A letter arrived, Charles said finally, 3 years ago, from Olivia's mother, Julia Bennett. She was dying, cancer. She begged me not to tell you about the children until Olivia was stable enough to handle the publicity. Alexander's blood ran cold. And you agreed? I thought she was asking for money, another opportunist trying to trap you through sympathy. Charles turned. By the time I realized she was genuine, Julia was dead and Olivia had vanished again. So you did nothing. I did what I thought was best for you, for this company. You were building an empire, Alexander. I wasn't going to let some woman and her children derail your success. Those children are my children. Alexander's voice echoed off the walls. 7 kids I've never known, never held, never... His voice broke. And you knew and you kept them from me. I made a choice. You made the wrong choice. Alexander moved toward the door. And now you're going to help me fix it, or I'm going public with everything. The drugging, the stolen designs, your cover-up, all of it. You'd destroy your own father? For them? Alexander looked back, without hesitation. Meanwhile, in Olivia's small house, she was searching through her mother's belongings. Julia Bennett had died 3 years ago, leaving behind boxes of papers Olivia had never fully sorted through. Too painful, too overwhelming. But now, desperate for answers, she dug through old letters, medical bills, photographs, and found an envelope addressed to Charles Grayson. Never mailed, never sent. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Dear Mr. Grayson, I know you don't know me. I'm Julia Bennett, Olivia's mother. I'm writing because I'm dying, and my daughter needs protection she won't ask for. 7 years ago, your son and my daughter shared one night. Olivia got pregnant. She tried to tell Alexander, but Harper Cole and your office staff made sure she never got close. They threatened her, Told her Alexander would have her arrested for harassment, so she ran, and she's been running ever since, terrified that if you find the children, you'll take them from her. I'm not asking for money, I'm asking for time. Let Olivia build her life. Let her become strong enough to face you without fear. And when the time is right, when she's ready, please let Alexander know his children. They're brilliant, mean everything good about both their parents. But right now, they need their mother more than they need anything else. Please, give her time. With hope, Julia Bennett tears streamed down Olivia's face. Her mother had tried, had reached out, had begged for protection, and Charles Grayson had ignored her. No, worse. He'd known about the children and done nothing. Rage replaced grief. 7 years of struggling, of working three bums, of telling her children they didn't have a father because he didn't want them. 7 years of lies because one powerful man decided her children weren't worth acknowledging. Olivia stood, her jaw set. She'd spent 7 years running, 7 years hiding, 7 years letting powerful people control her narrative. Not anymore. If Harper Cole wanted a war, she'd get one. If Charles Grayson wanted to pretend her children didn't exist, he'd face them publicly. And if the world wanted to call her a gold digger, fine. Let them watch as she took back everything they'd stolen. Her designs, her reputation, her dignity. And most importantly, her children's right to know their father. Olivia pulled out her phone and typed an email to Alexander. I'll work with you, but on my terms. And when this is over, you're going to answer to 7 children who deserve to know why you weren't there. The truth goes both ways, Mr. Grayson. She hit send. Then she woke her children and told them the truth. All of it. Because they deserved to know. And because Team Bennett was about to fight the biggest battle of their lives. Together, the emergency meeting was called at 9 p.m. after Olivia thought her children were asleep. She was wrong. All 7 of them sat in Mason and Ethan's bedroom, laptop screens glowing, whiteboards covered in diagrams, and an intensity in their eyes that would have made any corporate strategist nervous. Okay, Team Bennett, Mason said, pacing like a tiny general. Mom's in trouble. The bad lady made a fake video. What's our plan? We find proof she's lying, Ethan said, adjusting his glasses. Concrete evidence. How? So called at 9 p.m. after Olivia thought her children were asleep. She was wrong. All 7 of them sat in Mason and Ethan's bedroom, laptop screens glowing, whiteboards covered in diagrams, and an intensity in their eyes that would have made any corporate strategist nervous. Okay, Team Bennett, Mason said, pacing like a tiny general. Mom's in trouble. The bad lady made a fake video. What's our plan? We find proof she's lying, Ethan said, adjusting his glasses. Concrete evidence. How? Sophie asked. We're kids. Nobody takes us seriously. That's our advantage, Isla said quietly. Nobody suspects kids. Ryan's fingers flew across his keyboard. I've been monitoring social media algorithms. The fake video was uploaded from an encrypted server, but I can trace the digital fingerprint. English, please, Chloe requested. I can find out who made it. Grace, sitting on the floor with her rabbit, spoke softly. The lady who hurt Mommy, she's scared. I can feel it. She's going to do something worse. The room fell silent. Grace's empathy was never wrong. Then we move fast, Mason decided. Ryan, you trace the video. Ethan, you research the bad lady. Harper Cole, find everything. Isla, Chloe, we need to get physical evidence. How? Chloe asked. There's a charity gala at Grayson Enterprises next week, Isla said, pulling up the event on her tablet. Harper will be there. If we can get close to her computer or phone. We plant a USB, Mason finished. Copy her files. That's illegal, Sophie said nervously. So is what she did to Mom, Mason countered. Silence. Then one by one, each child nodded. For Mom, Grace whispered. For Mom, they echoed. The next 5 days were a blur of covert operations that would have made a spy agency proud. Ryan worked 18-hour days, his code becoming more sophisticated by the hour. He traced the fake video through 3 proxy servers, 2 VPN tunnels, and a dark web hosting service. The trail led directly to an IP address registered to Harper Cole's home office. Got you, Ryan whispered, screenshotting everything. Meanwhile, Ethan dove into public records, corporate filings, and archived news articles. What he found made his stomach turn. Harper Cole had been promoted to vice president 7 years ago, immediately after Olivia Bennett was fired. The sustainable design portfolio Harper claimed as her own matched, line for line, with preliminary sketches in a design competition Olivia had won 3 years earlier. And every approval document, every personnel change, every suspicious transaction bore the signature of Charles Grayson. Mom didn't just lose her job, Ethan said quietly to Mason. They systematically erased her. The charity gala was black tie exclusive and completely off limits to children, which was exactly why Isla and Chloe were perfect for the job. Remember, Mason coached them in the car outside. You're lost. You're looking for your mom. You're adorable and harmless. We are adorable and harmless, Chloe pointed out. Exactly. Use it. The girls, dressed in matching velvet dresses their mother thought were for a school recital, slipped through the service entrance while the catering staff was distracted. They found Harper Cole holding court near the champagne fountain, laughing too loudly, her phone sitting carelessly on a nearby table. Now, Isla whispered. Chloe approached Harper, tears streaming down her face. Impressive, since she'd used eye drops 30 seconds earlier. Excuse me, ma'am, I can't find my mommy. Harper's smile faltered, annoyed. Where's your mother, child? I don't know. We got separated and... Chloe's voice rose to a wail that drew every eye in the vicinity. While Harper awkwardly tried to comfort the lost child, Isla moved like smoke. 3 seconds to reach the table. 2 seconds to plug in the USB Ryan had programmed. 1 second to copy everything before yanking it out and disappearing into the crowd. 30 seconds later, both girls were back in the service hallway, high-fiving. Mom's going to kill us, Chloe said. Only if she finds out, Isla grinned. 2 days later, Ryan finished decrypting Harper's files. What they found was worse than they'd imagined. Emails between Harper and Charles Grayson plotting Olivia's termination. Bank transfers showing Harper had received bonuses for original design work that was demonstrably Olivia's. Text messages between Harper and a hospital staff member discussing how to handle the Bennett situation if Olivia ever returned. In a recorded phone call, Harper's voice crystal clear, saying, if she comes back, we destroy her again, this time permanently. The children sat in stunned silence. We need to tell Mom, Sophie finally said. No, Mason said firmly. We take this to someone who can help her without making it worse. Who? Ethan asked. A knock on the door made them all jump. Olivia's voice called out. Kids? Everything okay in there? Fine, Mom, they chorused, scrambling to hide laptops. After her footsteps retreated, Mason pulled out his phone. He'd found Alexander Grayson's assistant, Noah Pierce, through some impressive internet sleuthing, and Noah had answered his carefully worded email with surprising sympathy. We give it to Noah, Mason said. He can get it to the right people without Mom being blamed. The meeting happened in a park, surrounded by families and joggers, public enough to be safe, private enough to talk. Noah Pierce sat on a bench, watching 7 children approach with the seriousness of corporate lawyers. Mr. Pierce, Mason said formally, handing over a flash drive, this is evidence of fraud, conspiracy, and defamation. We obtained it through creative means. Noah raised an eyebrow. Creative means? We'd prefer not to elaborate. Noah examined the flash drive, then looked at the 7 children. Aljan, brilliant, determined, fiercely protective of their mother. Does your mother know you're here? No, Ethan said. And we'd like to keep it that way until you verify the evidence. Why come to me? Because you work for our... Grace stopped, then continued carefully. For Mr. Grayson. And we think he wants to help Mom. But he doesn't know how bad it really is. Noah's expression softened. You're trying to protect both of them. We're trying to protect our family, Mason corrected. Noah stood, pocketing the flash drive. I'll review this. If it's what you say it is. It is, Ryan interrupted. I can provide chain of custody documentation, digital fingerprints, and time-stamped backups. You're 7 years old. 8 in November, and I've been coding since I was 4. Noah shook his head in amazement. Your mother raised remarkable children. Our mother raised survivors, Isla said quietly. That night, Noah delivered the flash drive to Alexander and to Olivia via a carefully worded email. Ms. Bennett, your children are remarkable and terrifying, and they love you more than anything in the world. They've uncovered evidence that will clear your name. Mr. Grayson is reviewing it now. But you should know, exposing this evidence will destroy Charles Grayson's reputation and possibly the company's stock value. Mr. Grayson wants you to make the choice. Release it and clear your name, or bury it and protect his father. He says he'll support whatever you decide. Noah Pierce. Olivia sat at her kitchen table staring at the email. 7 years of silence. 7 years of letting powerful people control the narrative. And now her children, her brilliant, fierce, protective children, had handed her the weapon to fight back. But using it would destroy Alexander's father, would hurt the man whose children she'd raised in secret, would shatter the family her children deserved to have. She looked at the photo on her wall, all 7 kids laughing, holding hands, Team Bennett against the world. And she made her choice. The truth, not for revenge, not for vindication, but because her children deserved to grow up in a world where lies didn't win, where the powerful couldn't erase the vulnerable, where truth mattered more than convenience. Olivia opened her laptop and began typing. Mr. Pierce, tell Alexander to release everything, all of it. My children deserve to see that fighting for truth is worth the cost, even when it's hard, even when it hurts, even when it destroys. The truth is the only way forward. Olivia Bennett. She hit send and prepared for war. The Grayson Enterprises 100th against the world, and she made her choice. The truth, not for revenge, not for vindication, but because her children deserved to grow up in a world where lies didn't win, where the powerful couldn't erase the vulnerable, where truth mattered more than convenience. Olivia opened her laptop and began typing. Mr. Pierce, tell Alexander to release everything, all of it. My children deserve to see that fighting for truth is worth the cost, even when it's hard, even when it hurts, even when it destroys. The truth is the only way forward. Olivia Bennett. She hit send and prepared for war. The Grayson Enterprises 100th Anniversary Gala was the event of the year. Manhattan's elite filled the grand ballroom. Crystal chandeliers, champagne towers, a string orchestra playing Vivaldi. The who's who of architecture, finance, and technology mingled beneath projected images of the company's century-long legacy. At the podium, Harper Cole stood radiant in a blood-red gown, microphone in hand, smiling like a queen about to claim her throne. Ladies and gentlemen, her voice rang out. Tonight we celebrate not just our past, but our future. And part of ensuring that future means protecting this company's integrity. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. It's come to our attention, Harper continued, her tone grave, that certain individuals have attempted to exploit Grayson Enterprises for personal gain. Using viral publicity, and the ballroom doors burst open. Every head turned. Olivia Bennett stood in the entrance, flanked by Noah Pierce and 7 children in matching formal attire. Camera flashes erupted like lightning. Harper's smile faltered. I'm sorry to interrupt, Olivia's voice cut through the stunned silence, amplified by the room's acoustics. But I believe there's been a misunderstanding about who's been exploiting whom. Security moved forward, but Alexander's voice stopped them cold. Let her speak. He stood near the stage, his expression unreadable, his father Charles beside him looking suddenly pale. Olivia walked down the center aisle, her children forming a protective wall around her. Mason carried a laptop. Ryan held a remote control. The others simply held their heads high. Ms. Bennett, Harper's voice was ice wrapped in silk. This is a private event. You're trespassing. Actually, Noah interjected smoothly, Ms. Bennett is here as my guest. And as a contracted designer for Grayson Enterprises, she has every right to be here. Harper's composure cracked. Charles, do something. Let her speak, Alexander repeated, his gaze locked on Olivia. Olivia reached the stage. Her hands trembled as she took the microphone, but her voice was steady. 7 years ago, I was an intern architect at this company. I designed a revolutionary, sustainable building system, and Harper Cole stole it. Gasps, whispers, cameras recording everything. That's absurd. Harper's voice rose. I have documentation. Forged documentation, Olivia interrupted. Ryan, her 7-year-old son, pressed a button on the remote. The giant screens behind Harper, meant to display the company's achievements, suddenly filled with emails. From Harper Cole to Charles Grayson, subject, the Bennett problem. She's becoming suspicious. We need to terminate her employment immediately. I'll handle the intellectual property transfer. The ballroom erupted in chaos. That's taken out of context, Harper stammered. Mason pressed another button. More emails, text messages, bank transfers showing Harper receiving bonuses for original designs dated weeks after Olivia's termination. And then, the audio file. Harper's voice, crystal clear through the sound system. If she comes back, we destroy her again. This time permanently. The room went silent. Every phone was out, every camera recording. The scandal unfolding in real time, broadcast live on the event's streaming platform. Harper's face drained of color. Someone hacked your private conspiracy to commit fraud? Olivia's voice was quiet but deadly. Your private plan to destroy an innocent woman's life. Your private admission that you've been lying for 7 years? Charles Grayson stood abruptly. This is enough. Security. No! Alexander's single word stopped everyone. He walked to the stage, taking the microphone. Father, sit down. Alexander, you don't understand. I understand perfectly. Alexander's voice was cold. You knew Harper drugged Olivia 7 years ago. You knew she stole the designs. You approved her termination to cover it up. And when Olivia's mother begged you to tell me about my children, you ignored her. Shocked silence. Your children? Someone in the crowd whispered. Alexander looked at the 7 kids standing protectively around Olivia. Yes, my children, 7 of them. Raised by a woman who survived despite everything this company, despite everything my father and Harper Cole did to destroy her. Charles's face went gray. He looked at the children, really looked at them, seeing the unmistakable resemblance, the truth he'd tried to bury. Alexander, Charles's voice was barely audible. I thought I was protecting you. You were protecting yourself, Alexander's voice broke. And it cost me 7 years with my children. 7 years Olivia struggled alone, 7 years of lies. He turned to the crowd, to the cameras, to the world watching. Harper Cole is terminated, effective immediately. All her credentials, awards, and design credits are under review. Any projects attributed to her will be investigated for fraud. Harper stumbled backward. You can't. I'll sue. Please do, Alexander said coldly. I look forward to discovery. Security moved in, escorting Harper toward the exit as she screamed protests. Then Alexander faced his father. Dad, his voice softened, but the steel remained. You need to resign. Tonight. Alexander, please, you conspired to cover up a crime. You falsified personnel records. You knew about my children and kept them from me. Alexander's voice cracked. I loved you, trusted you, and you betrayed not just me, but them. He gestured to the 7 children who watched with wide eyes. Charles looked at his son, at the children, at Olivia, who stood silently, tears streaming down her face. I'm sorry, Charles whispered. I thought I was building a legacy. You built a lie, Alexander said quietly. Charles nodded slowly. Then without another word, he walked down the aisle toward the exit. The crowd parted like a sea, everyone recording, everyone witnessing the fall of a dynasty. The ballroom doors closed behind him. Silence. Then chaos, reporters shouting questions, cameras flashing, the crowd erupting in shocked conversation. Alexander turned to Olivia, who stood frozen on the stage, her children surrounding her. He walked to her slowly, the entire world watching. I'm sorry, he said, his voice breaking, for everything, for not knowing, for not protecting you. For 7 years of Olivia collapsed, not from weakness, from relief, from the weight of 7 years finally lifting. Alexander caught her, pulling her close as she sobbed against his chest. "I've got you," he whispered. "I've got all of you now." Mason was first to move, wrapping his arms around both of them. Then Ethan. Then all 7 children, creating a protective circle around their parents while cameras flashed and the world watched a family finally come together. "Mommy?" Grace's small voice cut through the chaos. "Are we safe now?" Olivia looked down at her youngest daughter, then up at Alexander, then at the faces of her 7 brilliant, brave children. "Yes, baby," she whispered. "We're finally safe." And for the first time in 7 years, she believed it. The aftermath of the gala was chaos. Reporters swarmed outside. Social media exploded. Harper Cole's name trended alongside words like fraud and exposed. Charles Grayson's resignation was breaking news on every financial network. Inside the now emptying ballroom, Olivia sat with her children while Noah coordinated security, and Alexander fielded calls from the board. "Mommy, I'm tired," Grace said softly, leaning against Olivia's side. "I know, baby. We'll go home soon." "My chest feels funny." Olivia looked down. Grace's face was pale, her breathing shallow. "Funny how, sweetheart?" Like, like there's something squeezing." Grace's eyes rolled back. She collapsed. "Grace!" Olivia caught her daughter as she fell. "Grace, baby, wake up! Someone help!" Alexander was there in seconds. He pressed his fingers to Grace's neck, checking her pulse, his face going white. "Her heartbeat's erratic. We need an ambulance. No time." Alexander scooped Grace into his arms. "The hospital's 6 blocks away. Noah, get the car." But even as Noah ran, Alexander was already moving, carrying the tiny girl toward the exit. Thunder cracked overhead. Rain poured down in sheets, just like 7 years ago. Alexander ran through the storm, Grace limp in his arms, Olivia and the other 6 children racing behind him, all of them soaked within seconds. History repeating. A different child. The same desperate fear. "Stay with me, Grace," Alexander whispered. "Please stay with me." Manhattan Memorial's ER exploded into action the moment they burst through the doors. "4-year-old cardiac arrest," Alexander shouted. "Possible congenital heart defect." Doctors and nurses swarmed. Grace was placed on a gurney, wires attached, oxygen masks secured. "Mom, what's happening?" Mason's voice cracked. "Is Grace going to die?" Sophie sobbed. Olivia pulled all 6 children close, watching helplessly as medical staff worked on her youngest daughter. "BP's dropping. Get her to surgery now." "Wait." Olivia lunged forward, but Alexander caught her. "I need to see her. I need—" "They'll save her," Alexander said fiercely, holding Olivia as she broke. "They'll save her." The surgical doors swung closed. Olivia collapsed against Alexander, her sobs echoing through the waiting room, while 6 terrified children clung to both of them. 2 hours passed like centuries. The children had finally fallen asleep in uncomfortable waiting room chairs, exhausted from stress and fear. Only Mason stayed awake, sitting rigid, his hand gripping Ethan's. Olivia paced, back and forth, back and forth. Alexander watched her, this woman who'd survived everything, finally breaking under the weight of possibly losing her child. "This is my fault," Olivia whispered. "The stress, the gala, everything. I should have protected her better. Should have seen the signs. This isn't your fault." "She collapsed because of the scandal. Because I brought them into that—" "You brought them into the truth," Alexander interrupted. "Grace collapsed because she has a medical condition, not because you fought back." "You don't know that?" "I do." Alexander moved to her, taking her hands. "And whatever happens, we face it together. You're not alone anymore, Olivia." Before she could respond, the waiting room doors opened. Charles Grayson stood there, soaked from the rain, looking older than he had at the gala. "Get out," Olivia said immediately. "Please." Charles's voice was broken. "I need to— I heard about Grace." "You have no right to be here." "I know." Charles moved closer, his composure completely shattered. "I know I have no right, but I need to say this before it is too late." Alexander stood, positioning himself between his father and Olivia. "Dad, now is not the time. It's the only time." Charles looked at Olivia, tears streaming down his face. I was afraid. My whole life I was afraid. Afraid that love would make me weak. That caring about people more than profits would destroy everything I'd built. His voice cracked. So I pushed away everyone who mattered. My wife Eleanor. I worked instead of loving her. My son. I taught him to value success over happiness. And when you appeared with proof that Alexander had created a family, I was terrified. Terrified of what? Olivia's voice was cold. That if he knew about the children, he'd become like me, trapped between duty and love, unable to choose. So I chose for him. Charles's shoulders shook. I chose wrong. I chose cruelty over compassion, legacy over life. And now an innocent child is... He couldn't finish. The surgical doors opened. A doctor in scrubs appeared, exhausted but smiling. She's stable, the doctor said. The waiting room erupted. Olivia's knees buckled with relief. Alexander caught her. The children woke, crying and laughing simultaneously. Grace had a congenital heart defect we were able to repair, the doctor continued. The surgery was successful. She'll need monitoring, but she should make a full recovery. Can we see her? Olivia gasped. Give us 10 minutes to settle her in recovery, then yes. When they finally entered Grace's room, she looked so small in the hospital bed. But her eyes were open, alert. Mommy? Her voice was barely a whisper. I'm here, baby. Olivia clutched Grace's hand, tears streaming. I'm right here. Did I scare you? Terrified me. Sorry. Grace's smile was weak but real. My heart was broken, but the doctors fixed it. Alexander knelt beside the bed, carefully taking Grace's other hand. You're very brave. Grace looked at him, really looked at him, with the perception that made her special. You're sad, she said simply. Your heart is broken too, but not the kind doctors can fix. Alexander's throat tightened. No, not that kind. Mommy can fix it, Grace said with absolute certainty. And us. We're really good at fixing broken things. She looked past them to where Charles stood in the doorway, watching with tears in his eyes. You're broken too, Grace observed, but you're scared to be fixed. Charles made a sound halfway between a laugh and a sob. You're right, little one, I'm very scared. Don't be. Grace's voice was soft but firm. Being fixed doesn't make you weak. It makes you whole. The wisdom of a 4-year-old, spoken with the clarity only children possess. Charles looked at his son, at Olivia, at the 7 children who should have been part of his life all along. I don't expect forgiveness, he said quietly, but I want you to know, I'm going to spend whatever time I have left trying to be worthy of knowing these children, even from a distance, even if you never let me close. Alexander looked at Olivia. She looked at Grace, who smiled and nodded. One step at a time, Olivia said finally. You want to be in their lives? Prove it, not with money or power, with showing up, with being honest, with being the grandfather they deserve. I will, Charles promised, however long it takes. Hours later, after the other children had been taken home by Noah, after Grace had fallen asleep holding both her parents' hands, Alexander and Olivia sat in the quiet hospital room. I built an empire, Alexander said softly. Grew my father's company into something that influenced cities, changed skylines, impacted millions of lives. He looked at Grace, sleeping peacefully. And none of it matters as much as this. As her. As them. His voice broke. I wasted 7 years chasing success when everything I needed was right here. You didn't know, Olivia said. I should have looked harder. Should have questioned the story I was told. Should have, would have, could have. Olivia squeezed his hand. We can't change the past, Alexander. We can only choose what we do now. And what do we do now? Olivia looked at him, this man who'd carried her daughter through a storm, who'd destroyed his father's legacy for the truth, who'd chosen her and their children over everything else. Now, she said quietly, we become a family, however messy, however complicated, however long it takes. Alexander brought her hand to his lips, however long it takes. And in that moment, surrounded by the beeping of monitors and the soft breathing of their sleeping daughter, they began to heal. Not just Grace's heart, but all of theirs. 6 months later, spring arrived in New York with the kind of sunshine that felt like hope. The Grayson Bennett Innovation Center for Children stood gleaming in Lower Manhattan, all glass and light and sustainable design, exactly as Olivia had dreamed it 7 years ago. A crowd gathered outside for the grand opening. Press, donors, city officials, families, and children from underprivileged schools who would benefit from the center's free programs in science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics. And at the center of it all stood Olivia Bennett, no longer hiding, no longer running. She wore a simple blue dress. Her 7 children lined up beside her in coordinated outfits they'd picked themselves. Alexander stood to her right, his hand resting gently on her back. And behind them, Charles and Eleanor Grayson watched quietly, humbled, changed, earning their way back one day at a time. Olivia stepped to the podium, and the crowd fell silent. 7 years ago, she began, her voice steady and clear, I lost everything. My job, my reputation, my dreams, all stolen by people who believed power was more important than truth. She paused, looking at her children. But I gained something more valuable. 7 reasons to keep fighting. 7 miracles who taught me that success isn't measured in awards or recognition. It's measured in love, resilience, and the courage to rebuild when the world tears you down. Applause rippled through the crowd. This building represents second chances, Olivia continued, for children who need resources, for families who need support, for anyone who's been told their dreams don't matter. Her voice grew stronger. But it also represents something else, the truth that sometimes our greatest losses become our greatest gifts. She looked at Alexander, and sometimes the people who hurt us can choose to become the people who heal us. More applause. Louder now. This center wouldn't exist without my children's brilliance, Alexander Grayson's integrity, and countless people who believed truth was worth fighting for. Olivia's eyes found Charles in the crowd, and it wouldn't exist without people who had the courage to admit they were wrong and work to make it right. Charles's eyes glistened with tears. So today, Olivia finished, we open the Grayson Bennett Innovation Center not just as a building, but as a promise that children will be believed, that truth will be protected, that families, however they're formed, will always matter most. The crowd erupted in applause and cheers. Olivia stepped back, overwhelmed, and felt Alexander's hand slip into hers. You did it, he whispered. We did it, she corrected. But before they could move to the ribbon cutting, Alexander took the microphone. I'd like to say something, if I may. Olivia looked at him confused. This wasn't in the program. Alexander turned to face her fully, and her heart started hammering. Olivia Bennett, he said, his voice carrying across the crowd. 7 years ago, I failed you in every way that mattered. I didn't fight for you, didn't search for you, didn't question the lies I was told. He reached into his pocket. Olivia's breath caught. But you fought for yourself, raised 7 extraordinary children alone, survived despite everything my world did to destroy you. Alexander knelt. The crowd gasped. Cameras flashed. Olivia's hands flew to her mouth. I can't give you back the 7 years we lost, Alexander continued, opening a small velvet box. But I can promise you every year we have left. I can promise to show up, to fight for you, to choose you and our children above everything else. In my dima, this box was a ring, simple, elegant, with a small inscription visible even from a distance. For dreams worth building. This was your mother's ring, Alexander said softly. Julia's. Charles found it in her belongings with a note asking that it be given to you when you were ready to dream again. Tears streamed down Olivia's face. Marry me, Olivia, not because it's expected, not to fix the past, but because I love you, because I love our children, because every day with you is the greatest invention I've ever been part of. The world seemed to hold its breath. Olivia looked at Alexander, this man who'd destroyed his father's legacy for truth, who'd carried their daughter through a storm, who'd spent 6 months proving with actions, not words, that he meant every promise. Then she looked at her children. Mason nodded encouragingly. Ethan gave a thumbs up. Chloe clasped her hands hopefully. Isla smiled behind her glasses. Ryan mouthed, say yes. Sophie bounced on her toes. And Grace simply whispered, "He's a good daddy, Mommy." Olivia looked back at Alexander kneeling before her in the world. "Yes," she whispered, then louder, "Yes." The crowd exploded in cheers as Alexander slipped the ring onto her finger and stood, pulling her into a kiss that felt like coming home after 7 years of being lost. Their 7 children rushed forward, wrapping around both parents in a chaotic group hug while cameras captured the moment and strangers wiped away tears. The ribbon cutting was chaos in the best possible way. All 7 children held different sections of the ceremonial ribbon, with Olivia and Alexander steadying the giant scissors. "On three," Mason announced. "One, two—" "Wait," Grace interrupted. "We need to make a wish." "That's birthday candles, silly," Ethan said. "Ribbons can have wishes too," Grace insisted. "What should we wish for?" Sophie asked. The children looked at each other, some silent conversation passing between them. Then together they said, "That families stay together." Olivia's throat tightened. Alexander's hand found hers. "Three!" Mason shouted. The scissors cut through the ribbon. Cheers erupted as the doors to the Grayson Bennett Innovation Center opened, and children poured inside to explore labs, art studios, music rooms, and maker spaces filled with equipment most of them had never had access to. Later, as the crowd thinned and the sun began to set, the family gathered in the center's main atrium, the heart of the building. Floor-to-ceiling windows let in golden light. The curved architecture Olivia had designed created a sense of openness and possibility, and suspended from the ceiling, a banner read, "Family, the greatest invention." Grace tugged on Alexander's sleeve. "Daddy?" The word still made his heart stop every time. "Yes, sweetheart. Next time, can you help us with homework instead of working late?" Alexander laughed, genuine, unguarded, free. "Deal? What subject?" "All of them," Grace said seriously. "We have a lot of homework." "Then I guess I'm going to be very busy," Alexander said, scooping her up. Charles and Eleanor approached quietly. Charles had aged in these months, humbled by his mistakes, working to rebuild relationships he'd nearly destroyed. "It's beautiful," Eleanor said softly, looking around the atrium. "Julia would have loved it." "She designed half of it," Olivia admitted. "I found her sketches in her papers. She was an architect too before—" Her voice caught, "before she had to give up her dreams to raise me." "Then this is her legacy too," Charles said quietly. "And perhaps my chance to honor what I should have protected years ago." He looked at the 7 children exploring the space, their laughter echoing off the walls. "Thank you," he said to Olivia, "for letting me try to be better, for giving me the chance to know them." "One day at a time," Olivia reminded him. "One day at a time," Charles agreed. As the sun set fully, painting the atrium in shades of gold and amber, the family stood together beneath the banner, Alexander's arms around Olivia, 7 children between them, some sitting, some standing, some already arguing about who got to use which lab first tomorrow. "We did it, Mom," Mason said, looking up at the building his mother had dreamed into existence. "You did it," Olivia corrected. "All of you, Team Bennett." "Team Grayson Bennett now," Ethan pointed out logically. "Too many syllables," Ryan complained. "How about just Team Family?" Sophie suggested. "Perfect," Grace said, and that settled it. A photographer captured the moment. 9 people backlit by sunset, hands raised together beneath a banner about family, surrounded by the building that represented everything they'd survived and everything they'd built. Not a perfect family, but a real one. Broken pieces made whole. Second chances turned into forevers. Dreams stolen and reclaimed and rebuilt into something even better. 7 years ago, a storm had brought them together through darkness and confusion. Today, sunlight welcomed them home. And as Alexander pulled Olivia close, as their children laughed and planned and dreamed out loud, as Charles and Eleanor watched with grateful tears, they all understood the truth Grace had known all along. Love was the greatest invention. Family was the greatest achievement. And some miracles took 7 years and 7 little geniuses to create. Sometimes what looks like an ending is really a beginning. Sometimes what feels like loss becomes the foundation for everything. And sometimes, just sometimes, broken hearts, broken dreams, And broken families find their way back to wholeness, not through perfection, but through truth, forgiveness, and love that refuses to quit. Family, the greatest invention.